All right, so now that we talked about Yeshua, Jesus, being, of a type 1 civilization, sun worshiping initiate, right? Him being a lyrical embodiment of God, his word was speaking for the little physical sun, right? We talked about that. Now, what is this Christ energy that he resonated with? Let's talk about it. What is this Christ energy that he resonated with? That they said he is the Christ or the anointed or the Messiah, okay? So these are just words that we haven't been able to, as a collective, see that they all are kind of talking about the same thing, which was discussed in the first video. The ability to somewhat resonate with being a type 1 civilization type of being, mentally, physically, spiritually, all right? A sun worshiper type of being, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And the reason why I have to say this is because we see that in Hinduism there is something called Krishna, and they had a Christ. They also called the sun Chris, right? And in Egypt, or Kemet, that's what we want to call it, they had something called the Crest, KRST, which was also represented in Horus and Ra, which obviously, if you ever looked at any of the hieroglyphs, you see that there is multiple signs that there's a lot of sun worshiping going on. Lots of it. And didn't Jesus come out of Kemet or Egypt, right? And then didn't he go into India, right? So doesn't it show that he goes through initiations of becoming this Christ or this Crest energy, right? And then we have the modern translations of crystals, crystallization, Christ, K-R-I or Y-S-T. And all this has to do with some type of structuring, right? Molding and structuring. And then we have a lot of the 13 and the 12 symbology as well, which is all within outside of our brains, which is all within inside of these systems that come out of many other systems, right? So really in under 5 minutes, let's go ahead and just say that, yeah, Christ energy is one that obtains this type 1 civilization like sun worshiping energy. That's the Christ consciousness. So when Yeshua or Jesus said, the Christ consciousness will return, or he, right, speaking for the sun, right, will return, he's talking about sun worshiping will return. Solarianism will return, where we get prana, out of the Indic understandings, this pranic energy, right, or this chi, right, out of even further Eastern understandings, which all comes out of Kemetic understandings as well. This greater life force energy that makes everything grow, right, sustain itself, generate, grow, and live, thrive in a type 1 civilization like feel, is also called the Christ energy because it's being utilized. So the sun is giving off prana. We have prana being given off by ourselves. They say every atom is a miniature sun, in some type of way, just because of the way that the electrons revolve around it, right? Or the waves that we call electrons or photons revolve around it. So with that being said, all within under 5 minutes, this is what the Christ consciousness truly is this sun worshiping, crystalline, using the melanin, the 5 pillars of melanin, the 5 elements, right? The 5 pillars of melanin and the 5 elements, we're using these, and we're gaining more of an understanding of how they work, how to alchemize with them first to be the star. That's why the star has 5, and then we live in this 5 sequence reality. And so we're using star power like type 1 civilizations do to bloom like a rose. And that's why the Rosicrucianary, the origins of a lot of the Christianity used the rose, because they understood that, the heart is the unifying force of so much. The valve, the heart, is the unifying force of so much, and it really is like a rose. It can open and close just like a rose. So you get the heart, and you get the spine as the cross that allows you access into, deeper realities like an astral plane or a spiritual plane or a mental plane, or even that allows you to be initiated into even being able to say, hey, I am the son, right? Of God. I can speak this English language or this Hebrew language at the time, right, for the elements, because it's all connected, it's all mental, or it's all spiritual. So within the 5 minutes, we've talked about what the Christ consciousness truly is. Again, one more time: type 1 civilization, sun worshiping civilization, type of spirituality. It's a science, like the Buddha and his full understandings are a science, as much as it is mental, which a lot of times we derive from science, but we take away from science because it's more of a belief. And it's a physical thing, because we physically get charged up by the sun. We can physically say that everything that we eat gets charged up by the sun, goes through processes with the sun. And so it's all this harnessing of the prana from the sun and utilizing it like a type 1 civilization. That type of energy is the Christ consciousness energy. And Jesus or Yeshua said, yes, I shall return, as in the sun shall bring so much abundance of these neutrinos or data codes that will show us once again that, hey, everybody is going to have to understand that, yeah, type 1 civilization is real. We have signs of it all over the world already, remnants of it. And we have beings that, emulate it, that type of abundance. We have beings that, live off of the sun already. And so they are in that Christ-like, not necessarily Christ-like, but Christ-structured states. And then we have, in all beings, history, bloodlines, certain remnants of what we call golden age. And when we look at the sun, we see gold. We look at our bodies, we find gold. We look at the alchemical processes, we see gold. And these golden ages are nothing different than type 1 civilization, like realities, sciences, beliefs, structures, and the physicality and the mentality and the spirituality, right? And so it's all an alchemical process. Since we're talking about gold, we're talking about roses blooming, we're talking about gold. Okay, so in under 10 minutes, we got that clarified. Christ consciousness is this Solarian type 1 civilization, pranic or prana-based reality where we have this abundance of energy, you know, like it's just really an abundance of energy. It's like, yo, that's what love really is. We'll be able to see that here in the future more and more as we go into the dives of these type of conversations about what the future lies for us, is that we'll have to just see, like, yo, if you don't really embrace abundance, then it's just like you're not really here in the present to embrace all things abundance. So we all want that right now, right? But we just don't see it for its rawest form, or raw, right? Raw, right? That Christ energy from Egypt, the rawest form. So just making it make sense. Christ, you know, comes out of antiquity of sun worshiping. All right, praises.